Hello, back to again with me. Today I will make a video about another PVR because the schedule for that for today, so I make it. I think the last video about PVR point view rate chapter novel in the Greek, right? So right now in chapter 4 in Rome. So let's do it. And you must ready because have 26 pages for this chapter, so many. So I don't know how many time I want to read it, but it's okay as long the purpose to practice, to exercise myself to speak English and to understand. But right now we focus for read it first, and for understand it's forward as long I'll read it, because to give palliative, right? So sometimes I already understand when I'm try to answer trivial exercise question and watch the movie and then sing a song, and then just let's see a presentation biology material. It's also helped me to uh what is it, develop my English lah. So I hope my soul keeps spirit to learn, because we can and right now we just do like that, and for in the future to many and the biggest thing another thing. So begin with the habit right now. Is the wise statement. So let's check it out. In the room. In the room, the character of people is only an eternal becoming. They are born and are modified under the influence of innumerable of causes. It's quote from Jan Fina. Of the position of women in Rome in the prehistoric period, we know almost nothing. We can accept that there was once a period a mother ruled. Very little evidence, however, is forthcoming. Still, what does access point clearly to the view that women's action in the earliest times were entirely unfettered. Probably we may accept as near to reality the picture Virgil gives to us of Camellia fighting and dying on the field of the battle. In the ancient necropolis of Belmonte dating from the Iron Age, Professor De Alonso has recently discovered two very rich tombs of women warriors with war chariots over their remains. The importance of this discovery is exceptional, as it shows that the existence of the Amazon heroine, leader of armies, sung by the ancient poet, is not the poetic fiction but an historic reality. Professor Dalloso states that several details given by Virgil coincide with the detail of these tombs. From the earliest notice we have of the Roman woman, we find the poses of the definite character of remarkable strength. We often say this or that is a sign of some particular period or people, when 9 times out of 10 the thing we believe to be strange is in the reality common to the progress of his. In Rome, the position of woman would seem to have followed in orderly development that cyclic movement too beautifully defined by Havelock Ellis in the quotation I have placed at the beginning of the first section of this chapter. The particle rule was already strongly established when Roman history opened. It involved the same strict subordination of women to the one function of childbearing that we have found in the Antecedent custom. The Roman marriage law developed from exactly the same beginning as the did the Greek. The woman was the property of her father first and then of her husband. The marriage ceremony might be accomplished by one or two forms, but might also be made valid without any form at all. For the regret to woman as in regard to other property, possession or use continue for 1 year, gave the right of ownership to the husband. This marriage without contract or ceremony was called usus. The form confarreatio or patrician marriage was a solemn union performed by the high pontiff of Jupiter in the presence of 10 witnesses, in which the essential act was the eating together by both the bride and bridegroom of the cake made of flour, water, and salt. The religious ceremony was in no way essential to the marriage. The second and the most common form was called soimsio or purchase, and was really a formal sale between the father or guardian of the bride and the future husband. But this form transferred the woman from the potestas power of her father into the manus hein of her husband, to whom they became as a daughter, having no right except through him, and a duty is held to him. The thousand even held to the right of life and that over the woman and her children. It depended on his will whether a baby girl were reared or cast out to die, and the latter alternative was no doubt often chosen, as is usual under such a condition. The right of divorce was allowed to the husband and forbidden to the wife. If you catch your wife, was the law laid down by Cato the Censor. In the act of infidelity, you would kill her with impunity without a trial. But if she were to catch you, she would not venture to touch you with the finger, and indeed she has no right. It is the truth that divorce was not frequent. Monogamy was strictly enforced at no period of Roman history. Are there any traces of polygamy or concubinate, but such a strictness of the moral code seems to have been barren in its benefit to women. This terrible right of manus was vested in the husband and gave him completely power correction over the wife. In the grave cases, the family tribunal had to be consulted. Slave and woman, says Mommsen, were not recognized as being properly member of the community, and for this reason any criminal act committed by them was judged not openly by the state, but the male member of the woman family. The legal right of the husband to beat his wife has openly recognized. Thus Ignatius was praised when surprising his wife in the act of tasting wine. He adhered to it, and Santa Monica consoled certain whips whose faces bore the mark of marital brutality by saying to them to take care to control your tongue. It is the duty of servants to obey their master. You have made a contract of servitude, such as was the marriage law in the early days of Rome's history. Now, it followed almost necessarily that under such as arbitrary regulation of the sexual relationship, some way of the escape should be sought. We have seen how the Athenian husband found relief from the restriction of legal marriage with the free hetairai, but in the Rome, the development of the freedom of love with the corresponding advancement of the position of woman followed different courses. The stranger woman never attained a prominent places in Roman society. It is the citizen woman alone who are conspicuous in history. Here, Relief was gained for the Roman wives as well as for the husband by the by what we may call a clever escape from marriage under the right of the husband Manus. This is so important that I must ask the reader deeply to consider it. The ideal of equality and fellowship between woman and man in the marriage can be realized only among a people who are sufficiently civilized to understand the necessity for the development and modification of legal restrictions that have become outworn and useless. Wherever the laws relating to marriage and divorce are arbitrary and unchanging, their woman as the weaker partner will be found to remain in servitude. It can never be touched the strengthening of moral prohibition, but only by their modification to suit the growing needs of society that freedom will come to women. The history of the development of marriage in the Rome illustrated this very forcibly, even in the days of the 12 tables. A wholly different and free union had begun to take the place of the legally recognized marriage from it was developed from early marriage by uses. We have seen that this is marriage depend on the cohabitation of the man and the woman continue of 1 year, which is gave the right of ownership to the husband in exactly the same way as a possession for a year gave the right over other property, but in the Rome if the enjoyment of property was broken for any period during the year, no title to it arose out of the usufruct. This idea was clearly applied to marriage by uses. The wife, by passing 3 nights in the year out of the conjugal domicile, broke the manus of the husband and did not become his property. When or how it became a custom to convert this breach of cohabitation into the system establish a from marriage, which is entirely free to wife from the manus of the husband. We didn't know what it certain is that this new form of free marriage by conscience rapidly replaced the other form of the coemtio and even the solemn confarratio of the patrician. It will be readily seen that this is expansion of merit produced a revolution in the position of woman. The bride now remained a member of her own family and touched nominally under the control of her father or guardian. She was for all purposes practically free, having complete control over her own property and was in fact her own mistress. The law of divorce evolved rapidly, and the changes were wholly in favor of women. Marriage was now a private contract of which the basis was consent, and being a contract, it could be dissolved for any reason, with no same attack to the dissolution, provided it was carried out with the due legal form in the presence of competent witness. Both parties had equal liberty of divorce, only with certain pecuniary disadvantage connected with the forfeiting of the wife's dowry for the husband whose fault led to the divorce. It was expressly stated that the husband had no right to demand fidelity from his wife unless he practiced the same himself, such as a system such Havelock Ellis is obviously more in harmony with modern civilized feeling than any system that has ever been set up in Christendom. Monogamy remained impressive. The husband was bound to support the wife adequately, to consult her interests, and to avenge any insult inflicted upon her, and it is expressly stated by the jurist Gaius, and the wife might bring an action for damage against her husband for ill treatment. The woman retained completely control of her dowry and personal property. A Roman jurist lays it down that it's a good thing that a woman should be dowered, as it is desirable he should replenish the state with the children. Another instance of the constant solicitude of the woman law to protect the wife is seen in the fact that even if a wife stole from her husband, no criminal action could be brought against her. All crimes against women were punished with a heavy hand much more severely than in modern time. Women gained increasingly greater liberty until at least they obtained complete freedom. This is fact instated by Havelock Ellis, whose remarks on his point I will quote. Nothing is more certain than that the status of women in Rome rose with the rise of civilization exactly in the same way as in Babylon and Egypt. In this case of the Rome, however, the growing refinement of civilization and the expansion of the empire were associated with the magnificent development of the system of Roman law, which is it is a final form concentrated the position of woman. In the last day of the Republic, women already began to attain the same legal level as a man, and later the great Antony, jurisconsult guided by their theory of natural law, reached the conception of the equality of the sexes as the principle of the code of equality. The patriarchal subordination of women fell into complete discredit, and it is continued until in this day of Justinian under the influence of Christianity, the position of women began to sober. Hobbes gives the same estimate as to the high status of women. The Roman matron of the empire, he said, was more fulfiller her own mistress and the married woman of any earlier civilization, with the possible exception of a certain period of Egyptian history, and it must be added the wife of any later civilization down to our own generation. It is necessary to note that this is freedom of the woman. Woman was prior to the introduction of Christianity, and that under its influence their position began to suffer. I cannot follow this question and can only show how entirely mistaken its belief that the Jewish religion, with its barbaric view of the relationship between the sexes, was beneficial to the liberty of women. The Roman matron had now gained complete freedom, the domestic relationship, and were permitted a wide field for the exercise of their activity. They were the rulers of the household. They dined with their husband, attended the public feasts, and were admitted to the aristocratic clubs, such as the Gerousia is supposed to have been. We find from inscription that women had the privilege of forming association and of electing women president. One of these bore the title of Sodalitas Pudiciti Servandre, or Society for Promoting Purity of Life. At Lavonium, there was a society known as the Senate of Women. Senate of Women. There was an interesting and singular women's society existing in Rome, with a meeting place on the Quirinal called Conventus Matronarum, or Convention of Mother of Family. Seems to have been a self-elected parliament of women for the purpose of settling question of etiquette. It cannot be said that the account that we have of this assembly are at all edifying, but its existences show the freedom permitted to women and point to the important fact they were accustomed to combine with one another to settle their own affair. The Emperor Heliogabalus took this self-constituted parliament in hand and gave it legal power. The Roman women managed their own property. Many women possessed great wealth. At the time, they lent money to their husband at more than screw interest. It appeared to have been recognized that all women were competent in business affairs, and therefore the wife was in all cases permitted to assume a complete charge and the children property during their minority and to enjoy the usufruct. We have instances in which this capacity for affair is dwelt on when Agricola, the general in command in Britain, shows such as confidence in his wife as a businesswoman that he makes her co-heir with his daughter, and the emperor Domitian women were allowed to plead for themselves in the court of law. The satirists like Juvenal declared that there were hardly any cases in which a woman would not bring a suit. There are many other examples which might be brought forward to show the public entry of women into the affair of the state. There would seem to have been no limit set to their action, and moreover they acted in their own right. Independently of man, on one occasion, when the women of the city rose in body against an affair faction, they found a successful leader in Hortensia, the daughter of the famous orator Hortensius, who is said to have argued their cases before the triumvirs with all her power. Eloquences we find the wives of the general in the camp with their husband. The gravity found at the Pompeii gives several instances of election addresses signed by women, recommending candidates to the notice of the elector. We find too in the municipal inscription that the women in the different municipalities form themselves into the small society with the semi-political object, such as the support of some candidate, the reward that should be made to a local magistrate, or how best fund might be collected to raise it, monument or statues. It is especially interesting to find how fine a use many of the Roman women made of their wealth and opportunities. They frequently bestowed public buildings and porticos on the communities among which they lived. They erected public baths and gymnasia, adorned temples, and put up statues. Their generosity to other from in Asia Minor, we find several instances of women distributing large sums of money among its citizens within her own district. Women presided over the public games and over the great religious festival when formally appointed to this position. They paid the expenses incurred in this display in the provinces. They sometimes held high municipal office. Era Flavia, an important Roman settlement in northern Spain, for instance, was ruled by Roman matron Lupa by name. The power of women was especially great in Asia Minor, where they received a most marked distinction and were elected to the most important magistracies. Several women obtained the highest priesthood of Asia, the greatest honor that could be paid to anyone. This one final point that has to be mentioned. We have seen how to be liberty and power of the Roman woman arose from and may be said to have been depend on the substitution of lecture from of the marriage with the complete equality and the freedom of divorce. In other words, it was the breaking down the patriarchal system which has placed women in a position of freedom, equal in all respect with man. Now it has been held by many that owing to this freedom, the Roman women of the later period were given up to license. There are always many people who are afraid of freedom, especially for women. But if our survey of this ancient and a great civilization of the past has to taught us anything at all, it is the patriarchal subjection of women can never lead to progress. We must give up as a timid adherence to past tradition. It is possible that the praying of women bones might lead in some cases to the fallenness of license. I didn't know I didn't know, but even this better than was state of the mother force in life, the child when the first it tries to walk has many tumble yet wet do not. For this reason, to keep him letting string, we know he must learn to walk. How to this we will find out by his many mistakes. The opinion as to licentiousness of the Roman woman rests mainly of the statement of two satirical writers, Juvenal and Tacitus. Great pains have been taken to refuse the charge they make, and the old view is not no accepted tale, which is quoted by Havelock Ellis, Sims confesses that the movement of freedom for the Roman woman caused no deterioration of her character. Without being less virtuous or respected, she became far more accomplished and attractive. With the fewer restrictions, she had greater charm and influence even in social affairs, and was more and more the equal of her husband. Hobhouse and Donaldson both support this opinion. The later writer considered that there was no degradation of moral in Roman Empire. The licentiousness of pagan Rome was certainly not greater than the licentiousness of Christian Rome. Sir Henry Manin in his valuable Ancient Law, whose chapter on this subject should be read by every woman, say the latest Roman so far as it is touched by the constitution of the Christian emperor bears some mark of relation against the liberal doctrine of the great Antony, jurisconsult. This is he attribute to the prevalent state of religious feeling that one too fatal excesses under the influence of its passion for asceticism and dissolution of the Roman Empire. The enlightened Roman law remained as a precious legacy to Western civilization, but as a main point out, its humane and civilizing influence was injured by its fusion with the custom of the barbarian, and in particular by the Jewish marriage system. The legislator of Europe absorbed much more of those laws concerning the position of women which belong peculiarly to an imperfect civilization. The law relating to married women was the most part read by the like not of Roman but Christian canon law, which is in no one particular depart so widely from enlightened spirit of the Roman jurisprudence that in the view it takes of the relationship of the sexes in the marriage. Was in the part inevitably Sir Henry Maine continue, since no society which preserve any tincture of Christian institution is like to restore to married women the personal liberty conferred on them by the Middle Roman law. It is not possible for me to follow this question further. One thing it is incontrovertibly certain that woman portion and her freedom can be judged by the equality of the moral code is the bearing contour to sexes. Wherever a different standard of moral conduct is set up for women from men, there is something fundamentally wrong in the family relationship needing revolutioning the sexual passion of man and woman must be regulated first in the interest of the social body and next in interest of the individual. It is institution of marriage that secures the first and the remedy of divorce that secures the section. It is great question of each civilization to decide the position of the sexes in relationship to these two necessary institutions. In the Rome and unusual enlightened public feeling decided for the equality of woman with the man in the whole conduct of sexual morality. The Legus Ulpian expressed this view when he wrote it seems to be very unjust that a man demand charity from his wife while he himself show no example of it. Such a deep understanding of the unity of the sexes is assuredly the finest testimony to the highest status of Roman woman. I have now reached the end of the inquiry set before us, the opening of this chapter. I'm fully aware of the many omission, probably misjudgment, and the inadequacy of this brief summary. We have covered a wide field. Was inevitably. I know that to understand really the position of women in any country, it is necessary to inquire into all the customs that have built up its civilization and to gain knowledge of upon many points outside the special question of the sexual relationship. This is have not been able even to attempt to do. I have thrown out a few hints in the pacing. That is all, but the practical value of what we have found seems to me not inconsiderably. I have tried to avoid any forcing of the fact to fit in with a narrow and artificial view of my own opinion. To me, the truth is as plain as we have examined the often confused mess of evidence as it throw light on the position of women in this four great civilization of antiquity. We find that in spite of the apparent differences which is separate their custom and habit in the sexual relationship, the evidence when dissentingly all point in one in the same direction. In the face of the fact before us, one truth cries out it is mentioned. Woman must be free, face to be faced with man. Has not indeed become clearer than a great part of the wisdom of the Egypt, of the wisdom of the Babylonia, as also the Romans, and in the different degree of the Greeks rested this. They touch much of the mother of the race. Do not record of this old world civilization show us the dominant position of other mother in relationship to the life of the race. In all great ages of humanity, this has been accepted as a central and sacrifice. We learn just as we look backward to choose countries and those time when woman was free, but what lost habit and custom the sons of mothers my lifelong and gladly in all regions of the earth. The use of history is not alone to sum up the varied experience at the past, but to enlarge our vision of the present and by reflection on that past to the point away to the future. Oh, so enough 10 pages for footnotes, so I'm grateful for that. It's more short than other video. Okay, so my conclusion statement. I think it's similar in Babylon, in Greece, in Rome also, role or status about woman. In here we can say the woman always, what is it? The quote from this. Mm, I'm just direct quote. Um, the law, the habit, the culture make the children boy of children from all each woman be more longer age and happy in this world. So that's why the history, the function, not just resume what happened or give journey, give education to get value, but to harsh perspective, to give varied reflection, experience for reflection about past to do or to see, to talk, to believe what should I do, what should we do in the future. So, mm, yeah, even the mom, even the woman always have unfair, unfair condition. Yeah, the mom can give the legacy for the children, especially for the boys, and to make better day by day, time by time. And yeah, even daughter, as a mom have daughter, can give bare minimum how to be a woman and how to be mom in the future. So yeah, that's it. I get it, and I really happy because it's more short than before. And yeah, I love that. Thank you. For myself, already read it, and I believe it's all information to save in your below consideration in your mind, and in the future you can remember that. So that's why you said deja vu, and you can do based on your belief. So thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.